Hey everybody, welcome to my studio, and I'm glad you're here. And today we're talking about location and this little mini series that I'm offering once a week on Saturday about how to run a successful recording studio. And if you hit that notification bell, you'll be sure that you won't miss any of these videos as they pop up. But let's move on. Location, location, location. You hear that all the time from realtors. That's the most important thing. Well, realize that also applies to your studio. In the intro, you saw that I showed a lot of clips there of a country setting, a downtown setting, and a lot of different home settings, which I imagine most of us are dealing with, in a basement, up in your attic, maybe even your living room, in a bedroom, a detached garage or a garage or whatever. Those are all very good places to set up a studio, but I want you to understand, watching this video, that hopefully you'll learn that these locations can impact the success of how you run your studio and the services that you may offer, and really how you can proceed. Let me give you an example here. Say you're out in the country here in a nice farm, and you can offer your services. You have a nice studio, maybe in a detached barn that's insulated and everything. And quite frankly, I've been to one of these studios. It was just a wonderful place. It was 10,000 acres out in the East Coast, and a very popular name brand studio. And that was one of the main attractions to this studio. It was kind of a retreat that you could get away. And that might be something that you might consider offering if you're able to provide that kind of environment. On the downside, it was kind of a drive to get to this place, and it wasn't easily accessible to a large part of the population. So that's a negative, but I think the positive of that studio overweighed that the negative being hard to get to. If you live in the city and you offer your studio services, realize that's going to be a very positive, because you're going to be easily accessible to a lot of musicians. But then if you want to bring in a drum kit and mic it up and record it in your studio, how's that going to be how you deal with your neighbors in that instance, right? Especially if you're in an apartment. Are you going to bring in a drum kit and be able to have good enough isolation to where that's not a problem? I imagine, like myself, most of us have our studios in our home. And so do you want that studio to be to where you don't mind a band coming in and bringing in their wall of Marshalls and setting them up in your living room? Or would you rather have them out in your detached garage? And you may go, well, wait a minute, let's just stop this conversation right here. My studio is already built, so it's not like changing my location is up for grabs. Well, hopefully what you'll glean out of this video is that if your studio is already set up in one of these kinds of locations, you can figure out what might best suit your studio as far as how the success is going to be when you have these services. What kind of services do you really want to offer to your customer? What are you able to provide? If you're in your bedroom studio, well, I think you're going to have some problems if you want to track a full band in your bedroom. However, you may provide mastering, mixing, critiquing services with your studio, and you may be very successful there with that. So think along those lines. Where your location is can really affect what kind of services and I think how successful your studio can be. If you're in a home studio and you're down in the basement, obviously you have more choices than if you're up in your bedroom. I think just the fact that you're in a basement, potentially you can set up a more professional looking environment, and you have more isolation, especially if you have something like a walkout basement or even a detached garage or something like that. You can bring in musicians and not have them really interrupt and deal with the regular flow of your regular home living, right? Okay, so think about those kind of things. Same if you're up in an attic or, in your living room. I like to use all the spaces in my house for my studio, and so I don't bring in full bands with full drum kits at this point. I will do it on the very rare occasion, but I can set up in another room. I can set up that as an isolation booth. I can have my studio where it's at right now in my main living room, and so that offers a nice big space for people to come in and sit and listen to the mixes, and I can very easily deal with 1, 2, or 3 musicians at a time. So I gear my services to that sort of setup. I also try to gear my services for doing other kind of things like making videos for people or whatever you might want to do as far as maybe helping with mixing or critiquing, those kind of things. And so that's important. At any rate, this is a short video on hopefully that you will understand dealing with the location of your studio can have a huge impact at what you might consider gearing your studio towards and the success that you might expect out of it. So that's it. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe, right? That helps me out with YouTube. We'll check you in the next video. Later, guys.